Welcome everybody, it's your boy Hopx and we are here for this week's RSCast. It's been a long time since I was last here and oh my gosh am I excited to be back. I'm joined by the man with the most luscious of locks within the RSC, Mr. Barmanitan, and the other man who has done many a thing in the RSC. I've lost my train of thought, but Boopy is also here with us. Guys, it's great to be back. It's great to be here, and we get to start discuss everything RSC. And I think we should start with, how hype is that intro?
Huge intro. So exciting. And you're going to be seeing that every single stream. That's how hype it is, and it deserves it. It deserves to be played everywhere.
I really think it does. Boopy, I mean, I know you were shooting all over the place when that intro was happening. I mean, what do you feel? You're hyped for it.
I was loving it. I think it's sick. It's going to be so good.
It's very, very good. And this is how we're going to open up every single stream that we have here. And oh my word, what a start to the RSC Season 9. We've had some incredible games. We are going to dive into these week's results. I must say a big thank you to Archeon, who is manning the helm of this stream tonight. So big ups to him. He does so much behind the scenes. But let's start with the prospect results here. It's a bit back and forth. A couple of 4-0s, a couple of ties, a couple of 1-3s, and it's a nice plethora of results to start off this season. We get to kind of see who's pulling away at the beginning, who's hitting the ground running, and who's kind of struggling a little bit. I want to throw it over to you, Barman. What are you seeing here? Talk me through what you see.
Well, the first one that maybe didn't jump, but was interesting, is that Overturn got swept and swept this week, and they got swept by Pluton, and the last two games in that one were 0-9 and 2-9, so they really got smashed in that. But then they go on later in the week to sweep Istok from Nines Esports, a new franchise coming in, and they get that sweep, so they end up 4-4. So, it's really back and forth, and really shows you that there's maybe top-level teams and bottom-level teams, but those ones in the middle can get results anywhere and really shake things up.
Indeed. And Boopy, if we can't our eyes over to Glacies, a couple of 4-0s there, a couple of 1-3s, a couple of 2-2s. Anything really catch your eye?
Yeah, well, with Glacies, sorry, I've just lost my sheet. Damn. With Glacies, oh my god, my sheet's disappeared.
Go, Boopy. You can do it.
Go. And I'm reading in chat, Boopy replacement to Ark. Oh, what a downgrade. Yeah. I mean, it's a great start for you, Boopy. Go on. What were you saying?
With Glacies, Pluton had a really good week, having a sweep and also going 2-2 and taking the top spot, which was completely unpredictable because they were predicted 6th in the power rankings, but this week they find themselves top. So really, really good week from them.
Really good indeed, and a couple of other noticeable wins. Terra 4-0 in Prelude, and then we also see a 3-1s from Alta over Xeno. Prelude Dead do also fall 1-3 to Lumosin, and the 3 ties that happen in the Glacis franchise is Lumosin 2-2ing Alta, Hot Metal 2-2ing Icicle, and Hot Metal also getting another 2-2 over Tartarus. So a back and forth happening across both these franchises. But if we go across, we'll get to see how these scores have set in stone after the first week and where these teams all land. And these standings for Glacies, to start with, a bit sporadic, as you said. A couple of teams who are predicted high in the power rankings may not be coming out the gate as fast as they want to, but still, there's a hell of a lot of potential for them to grow, as we see Terra right now having that 100% win percentage there, going 8-0 this week. But on the flip side, Prelude are going 1-7. So a lot of constructive criticism, I think, going in. But as we know, as the weeks progress, these are going to become closer and closer and closer. And Barman, Terra, 8-0. That's a great way to start your season.
Yeah, Yannick has pointed out it being a little bit saltily in a couple of the chats. So they're predicted 7th and they've risen to the top here. But something interesting about that is they subbed in Burger Bros for both of those games, who was cut by Icicle, Boopy's team. And he must have done very phenomenally for them if they are up at that 8-0. 30 goals scored, 10 against. It's a huge start for them. And it's one of only 2 teams to go 8-0 in this first week. In the whole league. In the whole
I mean,
league.
exactly. The whole of the RSC is one of the only 2 teams to go 8-0. But, surprising enough, 30 goals scored, 10 conceded. Not the highest scoring amount, 33. That does go to Icicle's side. Boopy, you're here with us. You lost one of the players who have pipped your team to the post here. Icicle, you're performing well, but as you look down, you've got Limosa and Alta Mages all kind of hot on your heels right now, all the way down to Hot Metal, who have also gone 4-4. These guys, this is, teeing up already to be quite a close season.
Yeah, definitely. I will say that Icicle have done a lot of sub games this week, so they are kind of ahead of quite a few people on the sub game front. But dropping Burger Bros was a difficult decision to make. He is a really solid player, but picked up a better player in my opinion. And congrats to him, because going 8-0 with Terra was a very solid result for him. But a lot of teams kind of hot on our trail, and I'll take the challenge.
Nice one. Good to hear. And just the final question, I'm going to put back to you, Barman. Any teams here kind of underperforming? I mean, you're seeing Xeno and Prelude stuck at the bottom here too. Prelude being kind of a well-known franchise within the RSC, kind of pipped at the bottom. Any teams here that surprise you to see the positioning?
I mean, I think the biggest lackluster result, according to the power rankings anyway, is Xeno. They go 2-6. They were predicted third. Ultra and Icicle maybe not quite living up to first and second, but definitely more so than Xeno. Minus 13 goal difference, 2-6. It's a rough start for them, and Marbs as a franchise in a couple of tiers. But mostly Marbs has done well, and I'm sure he'll be able to pick up the Xeno team and push them to places. He got Ignite the win in Season 6, so he can definitely improve this Prospect team this time around.
100%. Mark's a very, 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 very good manager and scout for players. I'm sure he has a plan in his little black book. But as we talk through, let's see how the plan of the Ignis standings kind of pans out here. Pluton going 6-2 this week, and they have also tied with Cardinals and Exelon, who have also gone 6-2. But that plus 20 goal diff has given that edge to that top spot. However, on the flip side is Talk from the new franchise number 9, going 1-7. Boopy here once again. It's a bit closer than we saw the Glaciers franchise. A lot of teams tied.
Yeah, absolutely. A 3-way tie at the top, just down to goal difference. And Pluton very unexpected to be up at that top kind of level. Cardinals and Exelon were definitely predicted to be one of the top teams in Ignis, but Pluton finding their way up to the top, an impressive first week for them. And Cardinals and Exelon definitely hot on their heels with the 3-way tie there. So
yeah, it's definitely interesting, but I think the stat line that really plays dividends to Pluton is that plus 20 goal difference, 6 above Cardinals, and it's definitely setting them up for a direct playoff position if they keep up these level of performances. But Barman, once again, I'm going to throw it back over to you. Any underperforming teams? I'm seeing Underworld at the bottom. Underworld and Istok kind of slightly far behind everybody else, but Fearless Echo is trailing there as well. Any teams there at the bottom they're expecting to make a little bit of a run?
I'll go to the 9th place team again in Underworld. They made the semi-finals in preseason, which was top 4, but we didn't give them credit fully for that, and we predicted them 5th. But they're even further down in 9th here, and I'm pretty sure they are making some roster changes in this first week. So I think there's a lot of improvement for them to make there and try and get themselves back into mid-table.
100%, and those mid-table results may happen in the next week as we turn our eyes over to the fixtures. Who is going to be playing up against each other? This may well shift around the tables as we look ahead due to how close these teams are, and obviously it is only going into week 2. I think some notable performances has to come from Terra against Hot Metal. That is definitely one to look out for, as they are sat at the number 1 spot, and Hot Metal are not too far behind. But once again, Icicle versus Xeno. I think this is really a telltale story. Is Icicle going to be able to clinch that number 1 spot after a few of those roster changes? And or on the flip side, is Xeno going to actually make the run that they want to make under the franchise of Marbs? On the flip side, you're looking across Ignis. A lot of interesting matches here. Pluton going against Exelon, so definitely a match you want to kind of pip your eyes to who's going to claim that number one spot, or is it going to stay the same? Exelon also going to be facing Overturn to hopefully bolster their support. And on the flip side, you're also seeing Istok take down Underworld, the bottom two seeds there. Who is going to kind of push themselves up? Who's going to put them in the best position going into week 3? Barman, Boopy, pick one from each. Boopy, what are the 2 games that you're most looking forward for? One from Glacies, one from Ignis.
Well, for Glacies, I definitely want to keep an eye on Terra's matches. Obviously, they had a great week last week, so I'd probably pick Terra vs Mages, just see how Terra's performing from now on, because I know they're not using Burger Bros as an FA sub anymore, so it'll be interesting to see how much that affects them. And also, one that you mentioned, but the one I have to mention as well is definitely going to be Pluton versus Exelon in Ignis. I mean, it's just, top 1 versus top 2. And it will really kind of set the scene of who's the top dog in Ignis, really.
Definitely. And Barman, do you agree with those? Are there any things that we've missed over?
I'll flip to the other side and look at those bottom table matchups. You mentioned Istok Underworld. Underworld also playing Fearless Echo down in those early bottom of the table scraps. Really important ones if they are to push themselves out of that and make sure that they're getting results against teams that maybe aren't going to be at the top of it. On the other side in Glacies, you can look at Prelude Microfaction as a similar match to those ones from Underworld. Is 2 teams who's starting off low. Microfaction 8th with 3 and 5, Prelude bottom with 1 and 7, and had a pretty weak preseason as well. So Prelude really need to start switching on. Maybe Chung will need to make some sort of intervention there in that team if they don't get a result against Microfaction, because otherwise it might be a very long season for Prelude.
Indeed, it may be, and that wraps up our prospect review of this week number 1. Guys, take note if you are interested in any of these matches. Will be shown, a couple of them will be shown right here on stream. And now we dive into the Challenger tier. And once again, a bit of a plethora of results. A couple of 4-0s, notably Nizuka-gan is going 0-4 against Zyron, and then also following up against a 3-1 loss to Glacier. So Nizuka-gan going 1-8. 1-8 here. Not very good exactly for them. On the flip side, Ignis, again, a bit of a plethora of results. A few more 4-0s from then. Boopy, anything stand out to you?
Yeah, well, definitely in Glacies, I was going to mention that predicted 6th and 7th in Orcus and Nizuka gang, finding themselves at the bottom of the table, going 1-7. So a really rough week for those 2 teams. I know speaking to Orcus, he was saying there were a lot of close games, a lot of 1-goal games, and it definitely could have gone the other way. But yeah, not the best week for those 2 teams. But yeah, that's what sticks out to me.
Boopy and Barman even. What about yourself? We picked up on some Glacies games, Glacies results. What about on Ignis? What stands out to you?
I think you're looking at the other 8-0 team here in Fearless Delta. I think that's a really important one to point out. It's so tough to go 8-0 in a week, and they've done it here against Masai, one of their opponents, who also got a sweep against Scorn. If it's a team sweeping Scorn and you're sweeping them, then that's absolutely huge for the Fearless Delta side. And you can see right through this recap that Buddha has really stepped up as a GM, and a lot more of his teams are performing than we've seen in previous seasons.
100%. The knowledge is definitely lying there. And with these results, have a look at the standings as we go on to Glacies first. I see Senji in the chat. Senji, mate, you've got to pull something out, because you know what? You've got a bit of a history of losing. Anyway, moving forward, we ever go on to the Glacies standings. And we see Shrine here, 7-1 at the tippity top with a plus 12 goal difference, way above anybody. That's 7 more than Glacier, who is in that number 2 spot. But as we did mention, Nizuka gang and Orcus going 1-7 at the bottom here. The -7 and -13 goal diff. But a few close matchups in the middle. We see 3rd through to the 6th spot, all tied at that 5-3 point, with literally a marginal goal difference between them. 6 separating all of those spots. Neptunium kind of left in no man's land at 2 and 6 right now, looking to kind of bounce back. And Barman, look at these standings as again, it's that age-old question which you'll be hearing a lot of me. Any teams here underperforming? You mentioned Nizuka gang, Orcus, but any other teams that really should be at the tippity top?
Maybe Chorus, looking at that goal difference, they must be one of the only teams in the league to have gone with a negative game difference and still kept it positive, showing that even if you are scoring a lot of goals, sometimes that's not enough, and the 0-1 games going against you can really come back to bite you and cause a lot of problems. I think where they were predicted bottom, so they're outperforming that sort of stature, but if they're getting these goals and not getting the games, it's maybe some cause for concern.
Definitely may be. And, Boopy, once again, you saw that positive goal difference, but with a negative win ratio. Any other teams here that are notable?
Yeah, well, I think Apprentices doing a madness this week, going fourth. They were predicted 8th in the power rankings, but having a really good week and finding themselves in fourth. But then again, there is that four-way tie in the middle of the table. I think this next week is going to be a really surprising one. A lot of teams are going to be moving around in this table, and it's going to be interesting to see who's kind of where on the next standings next week.
Indeed, I do agree. And with that, so we'll turn our eyes over to Ignis and the standings after week number 1. Once again, I think it's quite a close matchup between all of these teams with 1 to 2 game differences, and literally between from 10th, 9th, 8th, all the way over to 2nd. As you go up, it is a 1 game difference, so a very, very close matchup here. And once again, we're saying Fearless Delta, as you said, one of the only teams in the whole of RSC going 8-0 this week with a 30 to 12, so plus 18 goal difference. A really impressive performance from them. And Boopy, talk me through, any underperformers here? Who should we really be seeing at the top?
Well, we should definitely be seeing Xeon a little bit higher. Obviously, the previous champions last season, but the tier kind of caps have changed a little bit. But a 3 and 5 week, arguably a little bit disappointing for them. Wanting to see a little bit more out of them. But Atlas having a good week, predicted 9th and finishing 6th. So it's a lot of kind of some of the good teams lower down than they should be. Some of the maybe not so good teams are higher up than they should be. And I think it'll kind of all settle itself out in the weeks coming up.
I do agree with you. And Barman, I have to ask, look, Helium sat in 9th, but only with a -1 goal difference. It seems to be a bit of a trend having these goal difference with negative win rates.
Yeah, and I think looking at scoring as well, they didn't even get a decent goal difference with -10. It's pretty disappointing for them, getting predicted at 4th, and a lot of known talent in the RSC from previous seasons, and getting swept by Fearless Delta, a team predicted 7th, and they're at the top now, scoring, looking like they're really going to need a turnaround in the coming weeks.
Indeed, I could not agree more. But Fearless Delta is right now one of the teams to beat after this first week in Ignis. And look at that. Let's have a look at our fixtures. Will Fearless Delta be able to go another 8-0 week as the teams who they will be matching? They'll be facing up against Xeon, and they will also be going against Lunar Atlas. See how those results plan out as the week goes ahead. Another notable games, you said, Apprentices versus Glacier, a game to watch, and I think Orcus as well versus Neptunium. A chance for Orcus to kind of bounce back up the rankings. And Barman, coming back over to you, notable games from, one from each, one from Glaciers, one from Ignis.
I think one team we've maybe not touched on enough is the top of Glacies in Shrine, and they'll be going up against 2 lower table teams in Chorus and Nezuko Gang, and that's a huge opportunity for them to really try and start running away very early on in the season. If they get a couple more wins there, then they could really be taken off from Glacier and Xeron, teams like that below them. On the other side, maybe looking at Fearless Delta Zion, as Boopy touched upon. It's the former champions in Zion, maybe haven't quite hit the mark yet, and Fearless Delta definitely have, so that'll be one to measure whether Zion are still a team to be reckoned with, and whether Fearless Delta can keep up this really, really strong week 1 start.
Indeed. And Boopy, do you concur with that? Anything we've missed?
I do, but there are so many good games going on this week. Obviously, Fearless Delta versus Xeon. Helium versus Scorn's going to be good. 2 teams that, arguably should be higher on the table, but they're quite low right now, so that's a good one. As well, Crusaders and Xeon, that's a very good match. There's so many good matches this week. I'm just excited to see them on the streams.
Well, you're going to have to tune in, guys. These are your matches for week number 2 going in for the Challenger tier. But next up is the Rival tier, formerly known as Minor, but obviously rebranded this season 4 as Rival. Glaciers Ignis, once again, not as many 4-0s as we saw before, and actually 0 4-0s happening in the Glaciers tier, and I think that kind of concurs with how close this tier is going to be. Ignis, on the other hand, only 2 full rows coming from Sentinels for owing Nitrogen and Toxin for owing Lunar Hydra. Boopy, only 2 full rows across the whole of this tier. This is incredibly close.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. It's a very close tier, but I mean, Sentinels had a very good week this week, going 7-1, as well as Toxin going 7-1, and they were predicted 6th and 3rd, so not the highest, and having really good results. So, yeah, solid results from them, but not too many sweeps in this tier.
Yeah, very close indeed. And Barman, you're the stats man. Is it really going to be this tight throughout the whole season?
I mean, on previous RSCast, are just always talking about it. Every season we go on in the RSC, it just gets closer and closer as the caps get more competitive, and these teams are really finding it out every single week. There might be that 6-game difference from top to bottom already in Ignis, but you can see Nitrogen and Lunar Hydra are bouncing back immediately, and maybe Toxin and Sentinels not always getting the results they want. I'll say on the other side, it's maybe a slightly weaker start for Zephos than they wanted. Losing against Blizzard, it's a tough team to go up against, but also losing against Journeyman, who's a team not everyone has had full faith in. There's teams that can bounce back and make this even closer that haven't always gotten the results they wanted in week 1.
Indeed. And as we turn our attentions over to the standings after this week's results, so we can see who's kind of faltered and who's found themselves at the bottom. But I'm expecting a very close tier once again. As we always know, now known as Rival, it's extremely close and extremely competitive. With Blizzard and Sanctum tied at the top with a 6 and 2, and only a 2-goal difference between them. So +8 for the Blizzard and +6 for Sanctum. The Sorcerers are chasing their heels, along with Erebos and Montbelliard. A very, very close tier, but at the bottom, Zephos, -8 and that goal difference, along with Arena Tribe. Both of them going 2 and 6. And Uranium also stuck with 2 and 6 themselves. So a bit of a plethora of scores, but nobody really running away with it just yet, Boopy.
Yeah, no, not at all. It is very close still. I mean, a 2-way tie at the top for 1st and 2nd, and then a 3-way tie after that. So, the first 5 spots are definitely up to grab for kind of any team. But I do want to see kind of a little bit more from Zephos this week. I know they're a solid team, but they're quite low down on the table, and I definitely think they can move up this week if they have a good week.
I'm pretty sure they will. They have a fantastic team. I think also Arena Tribe looking to move up. I see Geodid in the chat. 10th, hopefully looking for a pop-off week next week. But over to you, Barman. Blizzard, Sanctum, and Sorcerers, all kind of at the tippity top here.
Yeah, and a lot of that was predicted. The only team that wasn't predicted to be in this top 5 that find themselves here now is Erebos. So they've really made the step up and made sure that they get a strong start to week 1, where maybe Might of Hades hasn't had across the board. And I think it's really reassuring for them that they are able to go toe-to-toe with teams like Blizzard, teams like Sanctum, that people are expecting to be so strong at the top.
Indeed. As we go over to the Ignis standings after this first week, I like the smack talk happening from Gio in the chat. He's saying they're keeping the top warm for us. So we'll have to. Proof is in the pudding, my friend, is all as I can say. But Lunar Hydra and Nitrogen stuck at the bottom with a 1 and 7 apiece, with a -17 gold diff going to Nitrogen and -14 for Lunar Hydra. But if you flip the script, Toxin at the top, along with Sentinels, as you have mentioned, both with a 7 and 1 win ratio. But Toxin taking that top spot with a +13 goal diff, and you have to say also Neri in that 3rd spot with a +11 goal diff. So definitely be able to score, but maybe, as you said, letting those 1-0 leads away from them, Barman. It's a plethora of results, I think, is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Neri were predicted pretty highly in this one, and they've done well. They've come through and are getting the 2 wins. Yoruba, they were not quite predicted so highly, even though they did do well in the preseason, and they've also got the 2 wins. So, there's upsets and there's some expected here, and there is those extra goals from Neri that maybe don't always count for it. You look at those massive win leads and how some teams are able to get them, and then they don't really matter as much because you don't get those extra wins that are the sort of plays that are pushing teams like Toxin and Sentinels to the very top.
Indeed. And, Boopy at the bottom, some struggles happening for Lunar Hydra and Nitrogen.
Yeah, absolutely. Going 1-7, not the best week, especially the first week for them, and the goal difference, especially Nitrogen, quite a lot different to teams like Overkill, Pandora, the teams above them. So they do definitely need to get some more goals in and hopefully win some more games. But I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will move up. And I have to say, I mean, Neri is definitely on Sentinel's tail with the higher goal difference and only one game away. I can see them having a good week next week and maybe taking over.
Exactly. Now we're looking to catapult themselves with the current week fixtures as we are going to turn our attention to them. How is this week going to pan out? Is it all right at the beginning of these seasons? Always chop and changey, and until the team cements themselves at the top, but really don't know. We have seen it in the past. I mean, I think it is. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Overture who actually cemented themselves at the top a couple of seasons ago and just kind of ran away with it. Whether a team will do it here, only time will tell. But some interesting results regardless. I think Nitrogen versus Yoruba, that first one of Ignis, definitely interesting to go forward and to see how they're able to climb back up towards the top of those standings. And on the flip side, we brought your attention to Erebos. We're going to be facing Blizzard and Xiphos in their week. Can they keep on their fine form to keep climbing in the rankings after a bit of a hard prediction on them in the preseason standings? Boopy, what else am I missing here? There's so many fantastic games.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads. I mean, one I definitely want to watch is Erebos versus Xiphos. I'm probably butchering that name. But yeah, I think Erebos has had a really good week, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can prove themselves against Xiphos, who, I mean, we know is a solid team. And definitely on the other side, Fearless Charlie versus Neri. Obviously, Fearless Charlie being the winners of the preseason. And they look really good in that kind of preseason tournament, but didn't really show up in league play yet. So I expect that to be a really good game for them.
100%, 100%. And just some news from the chat. It looked like Sanctum and Montbéliard actually tied to a piece today. So a good performance from Montbéliard to kind of pip away 2 games from Sanctum, who are kind of at the top right now. Barman, that's a great result for Montbéliard.
Yeah, of course. They're only the 1 game behind them at the moment, and that 2-all draw keeps it that way, but shows that they're able to keep the consistency at the top and make sure that they're definitely getting into one of those higher seeded playoff spots. And another game that I'm noticing on the Ignis side is, Boopy talking about Fearless Charlie predicted top in Ignis and getting the preseason victory. Pandora predicted second, and they've gone 2-6 in week 1. So I think that matchup against Sentinels, who predicted Dark Horse and have gone 7-1, I think that's huge for them to get back on track and make sure that they live up to that second place prediction.
Let's see if these results do concur as this week goes in. We are going to move on to the elite tier, formerly known as Major, guys. So elite is now known as Major, known as elite, as I should be saying, actually. And these results were also incredible. I'd love to see it. Loads more 4-0s, but, as we've known for experience across the previous seasons, Major, they have a start like this. There's a whole bunch of 4-0s, but then as the season goes on, those 4-0s flip on itself, and it could end up being anything. But a bit more distinct difference between these teams here, Barman.
Yeah, some teams proving that they deserve to be at the top. Saturnia in Glacis, they went 6-2, beating the predicted 3rd and 4th in Thanatos and Megaman Cult. And when you're predicted bottom, that is so reassuring that you're able to get results against teams that are expected to do well, and that you can push yourself to the top. And when every conference is so close, when every conference is so competitive, the starting to week 1 is vital. And Saturnia are proving that System of Solaris are not going to lie down even without Boopy in their ranks.
Yeah, hopefully they won't have the weight bared upon them of Boopy, but you never know. And talking about Boopy, what games bear weight, in this coming week?
I mean, I have to shout out Bladesmiths here. I mean, going 7-1, finding themselves at the top of the table, and they were predicted 5th, so they weren't predicted too highly, and having a very good first week, putting themselves at the top of the table. I mean, congrats to them because they've got a pretty hefty lead.
They do, and that's the results from the week 1 in the elite tier. Obviously, guys, formerly known as Major, is now known as Elite. We are going to go forward to how these things have standed out. Where are the standings of Glaciers? Have the teams put themselves to the post? Who has cemented themselves at the top? Only time will tell. But this has caused Bladesmiths obviously to be that 7-1 team at the top of Glaciers right now. However, on the flip side, Oracle's 1-7 with a -14 goal difference. Definitely looking to step up just a little bit. Zala, though, also there, along with Saturnia, going 6-2, both sharing a +13 goal diff. So tying that second space spot to the T. Very much hot on the heels of Bladesmiths. But a lot of teams here kind of a little bit imbalanced, a little bit, unsettled as this season 9 has started. And Boopy, who are you expecting to really bounce back after week 1?
Well, I definitely think that Thanatos is going to make a comeback this week. I think they're going to move up the table. I'm also going to say, I'm going to sound biased here, but I'm also going to say I think Avalanche is going to make a comeback as well. Bearing in mind, playing a full sub week, me playing last week, and next week won't be the same. So I think Avalanche and Thanatos are the two to watch this week.
100%. I mean, I know you do say you're biased, but I think Avalanche definitely have a potential within them. And I mean, Barman, do you concur with this Avalanche prediction? And who else really are we looking to make a bit of a run?
I think it might be fair. They get the 3 wins, and Boopy's playing in all of them when maybe he doesn't back himself as that full player, and there's better rosters to come out of the Avalanche side. They could be pushing up, but the other team I want to touch on is Zala. We're looking at these teams that are maybe faltering a bit. Avalanche predicted 2nd, 6th at the moment. Thanatos predicted 4th, 8th at the moment. Zala have lived up to their first place prediction, only one behind Bladesmiths at the top. And after getting to the final in the preseason, I think it's a really impressive start from them. And when you're looking at maybe the prospect Zimtra team not doing as well, but still predicted high, it's never easy to live up to those predictions and make sure that you do get off to a good start in week 1.
Indeed, and I have to give my only personal props to Bladesmiths. Catching the game. I don't know, I can't remember exactly who it was against, but it was an absolutely stellar performance from that team. Really, really showing up to who they think. I think it was Wolfie. I think it was who had an absolutely stellar showing on the Bladesmiths side. But
I think it was against Avalanche as well on stream.
Yeah, I think it was against me. I'm not calling you out, Boopy, but I think it was Wolfie who had an absolute ridiculous game for Bladesmiths.
Yeah,
I have to give a shout out there because that really was very impressive. But going forward, let's have a look at the week 1 standings for Ignis and see how that has panned out on that side of the coin. As I keep on getting distracted by how beautiful these graphics are. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, we go over, and Argon has actually found themselves at the top, but tied with Phyllis Bravo, going a 7-1 week, as they have, Argon has actually gone +20. I think Argon's done a really good job in that franchise to kind of boost the confidence of the rest of the teams and of the GM being able to have that top number 1 spot. And on the flip side of things, 0-8 for Zulu. I mean, Barman, touch on that, surely.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough start for them. I think they're making a roster change. Tropical, their AGM will be stepping down and going non-playing, so they'll be making moves here in week number 2 because they didn't have availability. They had some FA sub-ins in this weekend. 0-8. I haven't. Let me quickly check. I think that might be the only 0-8 in the whole league in this first week. No, there's one other team in Master that have done it, but it's a dire start, and they've got to make sure that this roster change they do make coming up is a good one, and they do bring in a decent player to make this turnaround happen.
Yeah, the turnaround needs to happen. 0-8, really a tough start. But I'm sure, Zulu, they have it in them. They have a fantastic GM behind them. And definitely those changes will take effect. And on the flip side, they look at the top spot, but Boopy really, really doing well, Argon.
Yeah, Argon and Phyllis Bravo having a really, really solid week this week. And locking Luna and Venom, the predicted 1st and 2nd, kind of out of those top 2 spots. So yeah, very solid performance from them. I do expect Luna and Venom to have kind of a comeback week and push up those standings. But, it is an impressive start from Argon and Phyllis.
Very, very good indeed. But those are your standings after the week 1. And let's have a look at the fixtures for week 2 of this elite tier. And I think a lot of important games, we have to say. I think particularly in the Ignis franchise. Will Argon and Phyllis Bravo be able to keep out, the predicted 1 and 2 spots, and on the flip side, is the Zulu side going to be able to kind of bounce back and move forward? And also some brilliant stories happening on the Glacier side. Zala versus Bladesmiths happening on the 25th, and that is a game you do not want to miss. Boopy, I want to toss it over to you first, and I'll let you talk about Glaciers. I know Avalanche is in there, but there are some really cracking games ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, Bladesmiths versus Zala is going to be a really, really good game. Current top seed versus predicted top seed. And also, I think Avalanche versus Thanatos is going to be interesting because both of those teams are a little bit lower than potentially they should be. So, both of those teams are going to be wanting to win that series and move up the table. So it's important for them to do so. So those are the two I'd pick out from Glaciers.
100%. And Barman, over to Ignis. Some really pivotal games here.
Yeah, of course. Always going to be matchups like this. I think I'll look at Luna Io. We've touched on the top two in Argon and Fearless going 7-1, but Luna Io only a game behind, and they beat Venom 3-1 last week, so they've got momentum to work behind. Won the preseason tournament, and now going up against two maybe slightly lower teams in Overtake and Eros. They're teams that have started off in the bottom half, and that means that again it's one of those opportunities to try and race ahead in the opening 2 weeks. And if they do get the results they want, keep up this winning streak, then they could really be threatening to overtake Argon and Fearless Bravo.
So some pivotal games happening for both of these conferences in this coming week 2 in the Elite Tier. So guys, do keep your notes out, keep your eyes out, because there could be some shifts happening with the standings. And as I talk, let's swap over to the results of the Master Tier. So the second to top tier here, formerly known as Elite, now known as Master. And some brilliant games, I have to say, that I casted over this past week. Really going down to the wire, and some fantastic performances from a lot of these players. But once again, we see quite a few 4-0s happening across the plethora, but I really have to, there's so many 3-1s here. I almost seem to get lost in them. Any noticeable games coming out from you, Barman?
Well, you mentioned, some of the streamed ones. Fearless Alpha versus Storm was an absolutely ridiculous match, but I think it's still disappointing for Storm. All 4 OTs, and they only managed to grab one of them. And combined with that 0-4 result to Carnage, you can see that they're really missing that Darky presence, who was muted this week, so wasn't able to play. And they'll be hoping that his return does something, because they're predicted top. And Boopy was talking about how difficult it is to not talk about them. That's just how big of a shock this is, and how much Storm will need to try and bounce back from this.
Indeed, it is a shock, and Darky being such a notable player, he will be flying on all guns as he makes his return heading into next week. And Boopy, looking over these games as well. I mean, full right for Hades against Heaven, and then Hades getting a 3-1 over Sub-Zero. That is a fantastic stat line for them.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to mention Hades. What a week for Hades, and especially the stream match. They came out kind of guns blazing. They were playing really well on stream against Sub-Zero. So, I mean, they're definitely one of the top teams. They were predicted 6th, but you can see that they're a strong team. And I mean, what a first week from them, going 7-1.
Indeed, what a fantastic week from them. And we're very aware that a lot of these teams do have made a few sub weeks for them to kind of get those sub percentages up. So looking for these teams to bounce back going into week number 2. Before we do so, look at those fixtures. Let's have a look at the standings after this week number 1. And Hades 7-1, as we just have mentioned, at the tippity top. But 3 teams behind them, all going 6-2. That being Zhu, Phoenix, and Iovi, all behind them, with a +7, +4, and +3 goal difference respectively. However, once again at the bottom, Haven is going 0 and 8. It is that other team, unfortunately, having a struggle this week with a -9 goal diff. And Statbank in the middle, we have 2 teams tied, Rias Legion and Nocturne going 5 and 3 each apiece. So a couple of ties here, left, right, and centre, but Hades comfortable, but not enough to sit down just yet at the top, Barman.
Yeah, of course. Only 2 games separating 1st to 6th shows that, we're talking about teams having a strong start in week 1 and how they're looking good at the top, but 2 games is most of the time absolutely nothing in the course of the season. And, we could see this whole top 6 change around just by the time of next week. So Hades definitely got to keep their eye out, make sure they keep up this top form. I've seen Refresh talking about their roster a couple times in the chat, and he's really confident in his players. And I think Valerie especially has been punching up for them, and proving that she's maybe worth more than her CMV suggests. But yeah, as you predicted, top one the preseason tournament, Phoenix and Iovi, we haven't really talked about them much, but getting 2 wins never easy in your first week. So much competition here for Hades, and it's going to be really, really tough for them to try and keep this top spot.
Indeed, it is. And Boopy, Sub-Zero is stuck at 7th there, but 3 teams below that squad. And looking at the bottom there, any teams that kind of really should be higher in those rankings?
I think definitely. To be honest, not really. I think those 3 will stay where they are from what I've seen from those teams. I mean, potentially Chianina, they had a good preseason, and I know they have good players, but obviously using a team that's over the cap in preseason, they had a good result there, but not the best in league play. I think those 3 will stay where they are, but I do expect kind of a lot of shifts at the kind of upper half of the table. I mean, Zoo being kind of predicted top, maybe taking Hades, Phoenix as well. Surprising to be 3rd, predicted 4th. So yeah, I think the top half will move around, but we'll have to see how kind of the bottom half does.
Yeah, the bottom half looking to make a point as these weeks go forward. And we are going to turn our attention over to the Ignis Week 1 standings. It's going to be interesting to see how these games kind of pan out after this first week. Carnage at the top with a 6-2 record with a +6 goal difference. But then underneath, you've got Dion, Fearless Alpha, Gladiators, and Lunar Titan, all going 5-3, and the goal difference is literally 1 between them. It is so close. And then below that, you're having Dogon 4-4, Einsteinium at 3-5, Overwatch at 3-5, Pyrex at 3-5 as well. And Storm, though, struggling at the bottom with a 1-7, and this is incredibly close, Boopy.
Yeah, it all is so close. I mean, the 4-way tie from 2nd down to 5th, and the goal difference. I mean, it's all just so close. This table is definitely going to shift around quite a lot. And yeah, there's a lot of teams that, I mean, aren't really where they're predicted. Dion, for example, in 2nd, predicted 7th. And there are a few other ones as well. So there are definitely going to be a lot of shifts in this Ignis table.
There's definitely going to be a few changes here and there, but I think arguably after this week 1's results, Barman, this is probably the closest tier we have.
Yeah, there's still a 5-game difference, but it's the only conference in the whole league that doesn't have a single team on double-digit goal difference. That's how close all of these individual games are. No one's able to pull away. Even Storm going 1-7, keep it down to -8, so they're really pushing for every game. And bringing Darky back, you can really see them pushing it up at the bottom. They're 2 wins away from 9th, so if they try to get a couple of wins, it could get even closer. And I mean, there's just so much quality all across the board. Looking at Einsteinium, 2-time winner Renee in there, there's chance for them to try and push up in the coming weeks. But yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty crazy stat that no one has pushed on to double-digit goal difference in 2 games.
It is going to be interesting indeed. And let's have a look at the upcoming week schedule for the week 2 games and how these are going to match up and how they could potentially shake up the results. Oh. There we go. Carnage sweeping with a sub. I mean, what a way to start their week at these 2 teams. I mean, quickly, Barman, touch on those 2 results that we just heard in.
Yeah. Again, teams able to push even higher. Carnage, we're top of Ignis, and with a sweep, with a sub, there's not much more you can say there. They're just looking like they're going to be such a really, really tough team. Hades Reyes Legion, if I go and make sure I get the right result, is Reyes Legion won it. Yeah. And they were 5-3, so looking at that as a result against Hades, it's really positive for them. We're talking about Hades being able to keep up their top form, and falling to their first loss of the season means that it's going to be even closer in that top 6 on the Glacier side, and means that Reyes Legion have caught up to them in wins, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely some close results they're going to pan out. But let's have a look now at how these games may even make it even closer within that tier. And some really interesting ones. I think the team that I want to focus on the English franchise is Einsteinium, who are going to be facing against Storm. Really a game that could set in motion a potential comeback as the week progresses. Storm obviously going to have Darky back in their mix. Einsteinium wanting to push higher up. So definitely a game that needs to be looked out for. On the flip side of Glacies, I think Haven is looking to get a bit more of a better result against you to kind of push forward and get into the top upper echelons. Barman, again, back over to you. I know you just spoke about those results, but any games here that really could shake things up?
Well, we've also had word from the score reporting channel that Haven have played both their games this week. And although they did better, last week they went 0-8, one of only 2 teams to do it. They've got their first wins on the board here, but it's another 2 losses in 1-3 to Zhu and a 1-3 to Chianina. So a lot of work for them to do coming into week 3. But elsewhere in the table, maybe looking at another top matchup in Iovi versus Zhu. I think that one's going down tomorrow on the 22nd. Yeah. So that's a huge moment for them. One team will not be able to keep up that winning streak. Maybe both of them if they pull out a draw. So I think that's one to keep an eye on as well.
100%, 100%. And Boopy, looking over to Ignis, any real teams here that need to put up a good performance to bolster their ranks?
I mean, 100% you have to be watching Storm here. I mean, finishing bottom, predicted top, obviously not playing Darky, but having Darky back this week, they need to have a really, really good week this week. And not playing teams that are too difficult kind of to play against. So I think Storm's going to have a good week and they're going to kind of bounce back from those poor results last week.
100%, 100%. So those are your upcoming fixtures for the Master Tier. And guys, I hope you enjoyed yourself looking at these results so far. I think a lot of things could shake up. We don't have obviously there hasn't been any Premier games yet. That does start in week 3, so not this in the coming week, but the week after. So we'll be able to talk a bit more on them. But just to quickly touch on that, guys, that is some exciting stuff. I mean, teams such as London United, Mustafalaka, Zero Zero Nations, Practice Squad, a lot of really, really good teams competing here. And Boopy, any particular team that you want to shine your light on of that Premier tier?
I mean, I'm just gonna have my eyes on Musty Fluck. I'm not too big brain about the high tiers. That is a name I've heard, and that is a name I will stick to. So I'll be watching them.
Yeah, and Barman, I know you have the plethora of knowledge of these stats and a hell of a lot of idea of how these teams will play out. I mean, what is a team that could potentially cause an upset in that Premier side?
I think looking at the couple of roster changes that are coming through here, bubble tier involves a lot of moving around. One team that I'm definitely keeping an eye on is TT Willhaben. We kept them low in the power rankings because we didn't know they're third, but they've been playing with different players around the scene. I've seen them play with Goffs in Nitro League, seen them play with, I think, Nex in the RLCS qualifiers, so I'm intrigued to see who they pick up, and maybe if they do find a really good third, Nex with a lot of proven results in this sort of scene, then maybe they are that team to watch out for, or maybe we predicted them lower when NKS retired.
Indeed. So a lot of exciting stuff happening over the next couple of weeks, guys. But moving on to something equally exciting, we get to bring in our special guest this week, who's going to be Angelo. He's a rival player and staff member at the Symbiotes for the Tox Insider, a well-storied player in his own right. As I'm going to drag him in real quick, so I don't know if he's paying any sort of attention whatsoever. He is still muted, so hopefully he has come back from his glass of water. Angelo, are you there, my friend?
I am here, yes.
Yeah, he is here. I mean, how are you doing? Some interesting results over the past week. Anything that stands out for you before I hand over to Boopy and Barman? Any sort of results, any key players and key teams that really stood out to you over this week one?
Oh, well, since I'm in Rival, I can only read about that, since I only really paid attention to that. My team went 7-1. That's a very good start for me. I'm really glad about that. We did get the other 2 teams we played their sub, which is interesting, but we take that. So we didn't really play a very, very, very high expected team yet. So I'm interested to see that, since we played Tails Charlie, who I think of very highly in my conference, especially this week. So we'll just see how that goes.
Interesting indeed. And Barman, I'm going to hand over to you for any questions for our special guest.
Well, I'm gonna go right back to the start. It's a common question here in RSCast, but it's just because of the community level. How did you get involved in RSC? You've been here longer than any of us on the panel. Very very long time member of RSC. But how did you get here, and how have you enjoyed the growth over the past couple of years?
Well, how I joined is I was just browsing through Twitch one day, looking for like some small streamers I could chat with, and I came across some guy who was in RCNA, about the league and all that. They introduced me to RCNA. Then I noticed there was also a user over that. Then I joined that, and then I joined season 3. Played under Chonker, who's now sadly gone, and ever since I'm here. I've very, very much enjoyed the growth of RSC. I mean, this is kind of what I do when I get back from work, just chilling here, talking to people. I just love the community.
Yeah, good to hear. And I'll ask one more question. Looking at this season, is there anything that you're particularly looking forward to, whether it be the playoffs, whether it be some of the new additions to the back end that people can enjoy? What do you think is the biggest part of RSC9?
That's a good question. Well, obviously, I'm very, very looking forward to playing this season in general. I think we have a very good chance of actually winning for once. Me.
Maybe.
And just in general, how the growth keeps going. I mean, there's still people coming in here. New players actually get way more active. I see that in 6 months, where I'm also very active. I just see a lot of new faces. And I'm just looking forward to getting to know new people.
Good to hear. Well, glad to talk to you. I'll pass you over to Boopy for any more questions he might have.
Okay. Well, obviously you've been here quite a while, as Barman said, longer than all of us have been here. You've been staff for quite a while. I mean, what kind of staff roles have you taken up whilst you've been here? Do you think?
I think I was one of the first mods ever introduced. I'm not entirely sure about that though, but I was one of the first mods. Then I went to scheduling. I was also caster for one game. Then that didn't really work out for me. I don't have the webcam anymore, so I don't do that anymore. I was scheduling committee. Then I moved up to head of scheduling committee. Then I left the server kinda. Then I lost my roles and my committee head. And now I'm just back to a normal mod and a normal member of the scheduling committee. Well, I almost had the GM role as well, but yeah, now you have it.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I was going to mention, I mean, obviously you wanted to go for GM yourself, but chose to stay at Symbiotes. Do you think you'll be getting involved helping around kind of just experience-wise building rosters over there, or are you just going to have kind of your season break and apply next season?
Well, me and Asterix are looking to both coach the lower teams, like Challenge and Prospect. I was about to coach Prospect last week, but I didn't really make it. So that's like a small involvement I had. I also joined this franchise newly, now that Ark's not the GM anymore, under Asterix. I've done a lot of work for Jonker for the lower teams as well, also coaching when I was back there. And well, I'm just captaining, so I'll just do my stuff, my roster, and see how next season goes.
Absolutely. Well, it's always good to have a good captain. And yeah, that's all the questions I have. I'll pass you back to Hopx.
I mean, it's a pleasure to have you here, Angelo. Any sort of final words that you want to pass on to new and existing members of the RSC?
Well, Asterix said I should say something nice about him, so I'm glad he took me under Symbiotes. Also, Ark said about something that I had to mention with playing with him in the Mean Team IL, which was a great season I had. Then obviously me teaming with Con and Mash again in ECC, my both favorite teammates, always a lot of fun. And just thanking everyone who has been very closely involved with me in RSC. I love all you guys.
I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and I now cannot wait for the further growth here at the RSC alongside you and alongside the fantastic committee members we have here. Angelo, thank you very much for joining us here as our special guest.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank
you very much indeed. And we are going to go on to, a fantastic section, but I have to give props to Angelo. He is such a legend of the community. He's done so much work in the background and really a pillar of the RSC, and big props must go to him. And a massive thanks also for Slipstream EU for hosting us and raiding us here. Guys, welcome. This is the RSC. If you're ever interested in getting involved, I'm sure we'll have some people tweeting, typing in chat the link to our Discord if you want to get involved in any of the action, either as a competitor or as just a member. But we are going to move on to the clip of the week poll, and this is one I'm always very, very excited for. Who has popped off this week? Who has done something absolutely nutty? And we'll be able to find out soon. And so, guys, I think on that note, Ark, let's run these clips. I'm so excited to see how things are going to pan out.
We got millions of reasons to let it all go. Hope we're not too broken. I know I'm not always strong, and I've been counting days to get away.
I mean, what a beautiful set of goals coming out there. I can't help but talk about Frizz's goal, the goal number 3. If you guys didn't notice, it was 0 seconds, and he dribbled the ball the whole length of the field. If you didn't know that, 0 second goal number 3, but I don't know where my vote's going to lie. Barman, what about you? Where's your vote going to go in this set of goals?
I'm tempted to go with Nick because it's such a clutch mechanical play with such a little boost to work with as well, but in the same way, I don't think you can give it to anyone but Frizz. It's a crazy goal. I don't think he's ever had clip of the week, and yeah, what a play to get it the whole way down from his own corner.
Indeed, and Boopy, what about yourself? Are you agreeing with me and Barman?
Well, I do like Frizz's goal. The only thing I would say on it is it didn't have too much effect on the game. They'd already won 4-1. It was kind of scored for the 5th goal, but to be fair, it was cracked. I would put my vote for Taylor because back when I was good at the game a couple of seasons ago, that was my signature shot. I was amazing, Hopx. That was my signature shot. Pop it up to the backboard, off the ceiling, go for the ceiling double. So I'm going to have to go with Taylor. What a goal.
First pick elite as well.
Yeah. Well, guys, get voting in the chat. If you don't see it, there is a current poll with the votes. You can go there and we can decide a winner. Currently, it is Frizzle with the lead at 11 votes. Next closest is Angelo with the 7 votes. But it does look like Frizz may be running away with this. A lot of Frizz fans, he does so much work in the background as well, if you don't know. Working a hell of a lot to grow the RSC along with all the committee members and be able to pull that off at the same time. It's rather cracked. But it does look like the vote is going to go over to Frizz. A couple of seconds left, guys. If you haven't got your vote in already, it could sway it. Go ahead and get into the poll for the clip of the week. This is week 1, guys, of the RSCast. A lot of fantastic stuff happening. But as the time ticks down, nobody is close there. And it looks like Frizzle is going to take the victory. And he is, as Frizzle is your clip of the week, number 1 winner. And I think maybe we'll be able to run these clips one more time. Ark, let's hit it, my friend.
We got millions of
Well, I mean, what a set of clips. Frizzle is going to take home that victory for the week 1 clip of the week. What a brilliant set clips they were. Congratulations to all those contenders, but Frizzle is going to clip that top spot. We are going to move on to the fail of the week. Clips that people, probably don't want to have ever shown. Hope that they are swept under the carpet of Psionic servers, never to be seen again. However, we have dug them up from the graves of despair to show them here after this week number 1. Guys, I'm so excited to see these. I heard there's quite a few big meta fails. But guys, let's dive into the fails of the week.
From Tavish, to be honest. Bishai takes his time, gets beaten out by Tavish himself, and then looks to pop it over another. And he has to take so much time. Bishai, no! Oh, that has to hurt so much. Oh, I don't want to say it, but I feel like I'm obligated. Is that fail of the week? Is that the one that makes it? Because he was under very little pressure there. He might have assumed that someone was coming to fly in and take that off his hood, but shot from Tavish, to be honest. Bishai takes his time, gets beaten out by Tavish himself, and then looks to pop it over another. And he has to take so much time. Bishai, no! Oh, that has to hurt so much. Oh, I don't want to say it, but I feel like I'm obligated. Is that fail of the week? Is that the one that makes it? Because he was under very little pressure there. He might have assumed that someone was coming to fly in and take that off his
say. I don't know what to say.
Draw. It's the draw.
Bishai clutching it up for the opposition to force the game series into a draw. I don't think if you guys realise, if he didn't score the own goal, they would have won. But he comes in clutch on the opposite side of things and scores a fantastic own goal with some brilliant positioning to get that finish for the draw. Was you think he was streaming the game at the time? Because he didn't look like he was trying to play it. Because I don't know what was happening there. But that is your fail of the week. Going over to B-Shake with a fantastic own goal for the opposition to force the draw. A bit of a shaky scenario for him, but it happens, particularly to Boopy as well. But the preseason awards... going to go on to that. Look at the weekly awards here. And who is going to claim the top spots? And I think this is where the Hopx hype comes in. Let me clear... no worries.
Try again.
Are we here? Are we here, guys? Yeah, I know we just have to add a source in the background. Don't worry. We'll be able to cut straight to it in just 1 second. All these new graphics can throw up a few unforeseen hiccups and bumps, but the own goal this time being scored by Archeon on our end of things. But we are here for the players of the week and the prospect here. The MVP goes over to Lola Bowl Power with a 423.13 points per game. Finishes going over to Radbot 913 with 1.5 goals per game. Striker for going over to Jason with a 63.64 shooting accuracy. Dang! And Playmaker is going to go to Blizzy as he gets a 1.3 assists per game, and the Savior medal going over to Flair, as his namesake says, sending up that Flair for that safety as he gets 1.88 saves per game. And we are going to go over to Challenger, your players of the week. It's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out as your players. No, no worries. This is week 1 here. MVP going over to Mauer with a 500.13 points per game. Finisher for Wills is 1.75 goals per game. Striker on Rollernator with a 85.71% shooting accuracy. 85! Playmaker goes over to Micah with a 1.38 assists in each game. And Xavier goes over to NJ as he gets 3 saves per game. Brilliant from these players indeed in the Challenger tier. These are your players of the week as we move over to we're going to jump back over to Prospect real quick, as they ones we just saw were the preseason MVPs of this week, of that week. But this is the week 1 players of the week, and the MVP is going to go over to Stingray with 495.71. Felicia is going to go over to JPEG, screenshotting everything as he gets 18.88 goals per game. Striker going over to Noxie with a 100% shooting accuracy. Playmaker going over to Ottercup with a 1.25 goal assist per game. And Xavier going over to Mr. Keen, as he's really keen to keep that ball out of his net with a 2.25 saves per game. Next up, we're going to go into rival players of the week. This is week 1. Insane stats so far. I mean, 100% shooting actually coming out from Noxie, really putting his team on his back. Rival players of the week going over to MVP. It is Toast. He doesn't like batter or a jam on it. It's just plain Toast, as he has 531 points per game. Finisher is Void with 1.88 goals per game. Striker going over to Carlitos with a 52.38 shooting accuracy. Playmaker goes over to Zytify with a 1.50 assist per game, and Xavier goes over to Turtle, as he is not moving slowly like a turtle. He's moving very, very quickly, as he's going to get 2.60 saves per game. Brilliant showing coming out from these rival players. These are your players of week number 1 in that rival tier. As we move forward onto the elite tier, next up, we're going to have the MVP of Skazy with a 540.75 points per game. Finisher going over to J Hills with 2 goals per game. Striker is a local with 50% shooting accuracy. Playmaker going over to Kartoffler with a 1.38 assist per game. And Xavier going over to Saiju with 3.38 saves per game. What a fantastic stat lines coming out from these players, really putting themselves in the books of being the tippity top and master now the players of the week. MVP goes over to Letson with 494 points per game. The finisher is the Pluvo with 1.88 goals per game. Pluvo reappears his face as he has the striker MVP as well with 57.69% shooting accuracy. Playmaker going over to Nick with 1.25 assists per game. And Xavier going over to Mattiette with a 2.88 saves per game. But those are your players of the week. And with that, let's have a look at the team of the week. And these are your players who have made themselves into the team of the week. Master is going to be a refresh from Hades with a brilliant stat line, 468.63 points per game on average. A brilliant shooter. It went 7-1 as well. Elite is going to go to the Yellow Crab, who's really popped off this season with a 38 shooting percent accuracy as well. Rival is Frizzle My Shizzle from the Sentinels roster. Really great shooting accuracy as well from him. And did get 1.75 goals as well. Challenger, Nakoma from the Fearless Delta side with a 1.25 saves to his name. And for Prospect, it is Yannick with a 410.25 points and a 35% shooting accuracy. What a performance. And now looking at the preseason team, or I think is it preseason players of the week and team of the week? I don't know, but we're going to be finding out in a moment. But we are looking at the preseason players of the week now. Lola Ball just get that MVP with 423.13 points per game. Finisher going over to Rabot with 1.5 goals per game. Striken going over to Jason with 63.64% shooting accuracy. Playmaker going for Blizzy with 1.3 assists per game. And Xavier to Flair with 1.88 saves per game. These are your preseason players of the week for Prospect, as we are going to move forward on to Challenger. As preseason is a fantastic staple and really gets a gauge of which of the players that you've got to look out for. As MVP going over to Mike with a 450.6 points per game. Finisher going over to Jay with 1.63 goals per game. Striker going over to Senji with a 57.89% shooting accuracy. He can shoot better than he has built teams in the past. But anyway, Playmaker going over to Arconix with 1 assist per game. And Xavier going over to Mersu with 2.08 saves per game. These are your players of the week for the preseason in the Challenger tier. going over to next up is the rival tier, and the MVP is going over to Karen with 454.58 points per game. Finisher going over to Linkso with 1.42 goals per game. Striker going to Panic. He's not panicking from the net. He is shooting a 61.54% shooting accuracy. Playmaker going over to Rev as he revs his engine to get a 1.08 assists per game. And Savior going over to the god of RSC, Mr. Angelo, as he gets a 2.14 saves per game. Those are your rival players of the week. As we move forward on to the elite tier, get to see how these players kind of match up against each other of your players of the week. MVP going over to Tandoori Teddy as his spicy gameplay produces 467.21 points per game. Finisher going over to Anthony, calm, cool, and collected, 1.64 goals per game. Striker goes over to Jambi with a 50% shooting accuracy. He knows how to find that back of the net. His playmaker goes over to Skaz as he gets a 1.17 assists per game. And Savior go over to Jondis with a 2.38 saves per game, keeping his goal line clear. Next up, we are going to go over to the master tier. These are your players of the week. MVP going over to Pluvo with a 502.78 points per game. Pluvo reappears to give that finishing title to himself with a 1.5 goals per game. First striker goes over to Pacey. The speed, pace, and momentum going over to produce a 64.29% shooting accuracy. Playmaker, laser sharp as always with 1.25 assists per game. And Pacey reappearing once again as not only can he shoot, but he can make saves with 2.13 saves per game. Those are your players of the week for the preseason games. And I think we'll have a preseason team of the week coming up here. These are your team of the week for preseason. Pluvo is in that master tier. Nick for the elite tier. Dan for the rival tier. Mike for the challenger tier. And Kikada for the prospect. Those are your team of the week and players of the week for both preseason and week one. What a showing this was. What a performance from all these players, Boopy and Barman.
Huge. So many
absolutely.
outstanding individual performances.
I mean, really is, as I'm trying to recover. That was a hype and a half, wasn't it? But anyway, as we look at the week one number one manager tier, you're going over to Master. It's Larson and Stingray with 263 points to their name. Elite is going to go over to Ohio with 318 points, the highest of any manager so far. Rival goes over to Robin with 301. Challenger goes over to Caleb with 256. And Prospect going over to Yannick with 241. Those are your RSC Season 9 Fantasy League Week 1 results. Brilliant performance from them as well, really giving an insight knowledge of how things go. And overall managerial positions stand for the Fantasy League with Ohio with 1,134 points, kind of running away with the Fantasy League right now. Deep Sound in second with 1,060. Third place going over to Axos with 1,054. Twisted in fourth with 1,049. Followed up by Dylan and Ark. Dylan sat at fifth with 987. And sixth is Ark with 982. But Ohio really running away with the point diff right now in the Fantasy League. What a showing it has been across the board. And I think we finally turn our attention over to the series of the week. We've had some incredible series throughout the whole week so far. Some brilliant performances left, right, and center. But the title must go over to Fearless Alpha versus Storm. As I think you previously mentioned, Boopy, this was one hell of a series.
Yeah, definitely. It absolutely was. And it was very, very close. Definitely could have gone either way, even though Storm wasn't playing their Darky. It definitely could have gone either way. So a very good series to pop on the YouTube. And yeah, it should be up shortly. So
it's going to be up on the YouTube, guys. Go follow us on YouTube at RSCEU. Drop us a subscribe there. I don't know if we have any clips from this. Do tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we do. But guys, these are the things. All our shout outs must go to this. Go follow us on Twitter at RSC_EU. You're here on Twitch. Drop us a follow and drop us a subscribe. You can also follow us on Insta and TikTok at RSCE_EU. And obviously to YouTube is RSCEU. It is a brilliant time for the RSC, guys. Go and follow and check out all the socials. It is going to be absolutely brilliant and a lot of info coming your way away, and we have to give a big thank you to the people who power us. It is Lona organization who do a lot of background work and also a lot of work in giving us that sponsorship. So a massive thank must go over to Steve-Blood, who is a brilliant man. A big props must also go over to Versus, who helps us run the weekly tournament every Tuesday, guys. So if you interested for some more Rocket League, if you want to play or if you want to watch, Versus tournaments happen here every single week and every Tuesday night. A big thanks also going over to Hyperx for a lot of the giveaways that you may be seeing on our socials. And obviously Badass here in the background. We wouldn't be able to do the production at this level without them. So a big thanks going over to all of those guys and at every single organization that we are working with. Guys, it has been absolutely brilliant being here today and this evening. And what an RSCast. I mean, it's a pleasure to be back. And guys, if you don't know, these are how the prize pools are split up. If you are in the Premier tier, you get £1,250. Master, you get £260. Elite, 120. Rival, 60. Challenger, 40. And Prospect, 20. We are one of the only tiers in EU to provide a prize pool for every single tier. We're one of the only organizations to do that. No matter what skill level you are, you have the opportunity to get your hands on a little bit of cash. So guys, get the people you love, get the people you play with, and get them into the RSC, because the more the merrier. And so far, these are your franchise standings after week number 1. Top of the tip of the table goes over to the Phyllis Esports and Fort Templar, as they both had 27 wins apiece. Hot on their heels is Symbiotes and Forge with 26 wins apiece as well. And just at the bottom, though, struggling is Override and Voltec, as they are now 14 and 26 and 12 and 28. And Override have a minus 38 goal difference, so looking to change that around. But we'll run through these one more time. Phyllis Alpha at 1, Fort Templar at 2, Symbiotes at 3. 4th goes over to Forge, 5th to System Solaris, 6 at 2, Galamo Esports, Arctic Frenzy and Zimtra follow up 7th and 8th. 9th going to Sanctuary. Ox Gaming claims 10th. Shaman Esports claims 11th, with 12th going over to Might of Hades, followed up by 13, which is Luna Esports. And hot on their heels are Element Esports as well. 9th Esports is going to claim the 15th spot, and 16th going over to Overture. 17th, 18th is Dark Magic and Waifu Fan Club. 19th to Override. And at the bottom is Voltec in 20th. Guys, how your franchise standings are going to land after week 1's results. But do be aware, this can always change as these games and as these weeks progress. Thank you very, very much, Barman and Boopy. I've been waffling on for the past 5 minutes. It's a pleasure to have you guys. But any final words, Boopy, about the week ahead and about the RSC?
I mean, well, we've seen all the tables. We've seen they're so close. So this next week is going to be huge for all the teams pushing themselves up those tables. And I'm excited to see some good gameplay.
I really am as well. And Barman, the stats man, what are you looking at here for the coming weeks and the excitement of RSC Season 9?
Yeah, so many storylines, so many great games going to be on stream. But I do also want to say, for that Fantasy League that you've just seen the highlights of on stream here, you can sign up yourself, you can play. If you think you know a thing or two about any of the tiers, you can play all of them, you can play one of them, and you make your own team that fits the cap and see how many points you get. So make sure you get signing up in the Fantasy League channel in the Discord.
Guys, go and sign up. It's a great opportunity, even if you're not a player or if you're just here to just socialize. Anybody can sign up if you want to build a tier and want to build a team in those respective tiers. Even you can see how you match up and see if how well you know the players and the RSC. But guys, thank you very, very much. We hope you've enjoyed yourself. Big thanks to our powered organization versus Luna organization, Badass and HyperX, and a big thank you to Ark, who's been manning the helm all evening long. Guys, we'll see you very, very soon. And don't forget to tune in to the RSC, as we'll have plenty of games happening throughout. And remember, tomorrow is the Versus Cup. You'll be seeing me and Vector here on the casting desk to see how that pays out. So, guys, hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening, fantastic rest of your week. And we'll catch you very, very soon, very, very soon back here on the RSC. Have a good night.
Goodbye.